Well, it's been a long time coming, folks. I almost, and I can assure you on this, uh, there won't be a whole lot of activity on this channel. I have forgiven those involved for what they've done. I'm past it. The only reason I'm making this is because this is 6 months after the prosecution. And I guarantee you more and more people know what they did to me. They didn't, man, people, I ain't saying that they fucking railroaded me so bad I'm sitting in prison and all this. I ain't saying none of that. I'm just saying they railroaded me because I was an outsider. Your town allowed your police department to railroad me right through the justice system. It's all a matter of public record, folks. All of it. Now, you might have to, it might take an act of God for you to get any of it, but I got a lot of it. Once I kind of figured out how this thing was going to go, I didn't ask for no more public records. I didn't ask for no more recordings or anything. I knew where I was sitting. By that time, they tried everything. But I want you to know, folks, in this town, I don't hold it against all of you. I do hold it against the fact that a lot of you know what happened. You know where the problem is. But will you do anything about it? I know there's a lot of you that remember my main channel and all the videos on it. Well, that channel's going to be back up. I won't be able to do nothing with it, but it's going to be back up. Watch and see. Those videos are all going to be back online. If you don't believe for a minute, folks, that they railroaded me, all I can tell you this is one thing they had to do in that courtroom in order to prove that I was driving without a license, because that's exactly what they prosecuted me on and charged me with, prosecuted me on it with, and it held up. A year's probation, $375 in fines for that charge. It held up. Now, they said the reason I didn't have a license, even though they admit I had a driver's license, an Indiana driver's license, they said the reason why I didn't have a driver's license is because I had lived here more than 3 months or 90 days or something, and I still did not have an Ohio license. Now, they know my story. I was running back and forth to Indiana the first year or so, staying at my son's. But even after the house was rented here in Boardman Township, there was absolutely no bills in my name. Nothing. Not the electric bill, cable bill, internet bill, gas bill, rent. None of this was in my name. The very reason I couldn't prove to the state of Ohio I was a resident in order to have my driver's license changed over. My wife and daughter who do have the bills in their name on this house already had their licenses changed over and told me, we don't know what you're going to be able to do to what you can use to get yours done. So I could not get my license changed over. This court, your Mahoney County courtroom, criminal courtroom number 2, never even proved I was a resident of the state in any way, shape, or form other than the fact their police officers have seen me around town. They never had to prove I was a resident and claimed I was a resident. I couldn't prove I was a resident, and the state of Ohio would not let me change my license. And this is why I say they won, even though they prosecuted me on this charge. And it seemed like to me for a while they did. For about 3 days. Once I had my the paperwork that came from me being put on probation for driving without a license, even though I had a Indiana state license. And even though the arresting police officer saw my license and refused to write me a ticket for driving without a license, he told the officer that made the claim to write the ticket. And the officer that made the ticket on me, he wasn't even there when I was arrested. He had never seen whether I had a driver's license or not, and that charge stuck. Like I said, the arresting officer took my driver's license as my ID when he booked me into the jail or the police station or wherever it was the jail, telling me the whole time, don't worry, Brian. Nobody's ever going to know that you've been arrested. Nobody's ever going to know it. It's never going to go to the news. Nobody's ever going to hear about it. I'm okay, yeah, cool. Why not? He got me down to the police station where they fingerprinted me and took pictures and everything, looking at my driver's license. Him and the second officer that was involved with arresting me that came on my property to get me, and I allowed them on my property this time. And they both saw my driver's license, and the officer that has never seen or had a reason to pull me over made a claim I didn't have one, and he radioed to them and told them to write me a ticket for having no license. And they told me, right in front of me, they told him, no, he's got a license, it's sitting right here in front of me, and it's a good license. I'm not going to write him a ticket for driving without a driver's license. You're going to have to do that, Officer Dubas. Now, this was Officer Nick Newland, Car 18, that told Officer Dubas is. Car 19, Officer Mike Manis, could back that very story. I had him summoned into court, Mike Manis, but he didn't show up for my trial because he is in he's in the Army Reserves, and I was told he was out on that on the day of my trial. Awful convenient, wasn't it? He's in the reserves. You know how often they go. Even in the courtroom, sitting in the witness stand, sitting in his uniform, Officer Nick Newland, I asked him, why didn't you write me the ticket for driving without a driver's license? He's known me better than anybody else on the police force. He's been at the very house they claimed I was a resident of to talk to me. He told them I did not write it because I saw your license and it was a good driver's license. I said, was you ordered to write it? And he said yes. And he refused to do it. Or was told to write it, not ordered to write it. He was asked to write it. I was done with him. I didn't need him for any. That's all I wanted him to do was tell the truth. And when I got a chance to talk to him before the trial, I told him, I'm not going to ask you, I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to ask. All I want out of you is what you truly and honestly believe the truth was that happened that night. And he was the only one that sat in that witness chair other than me that told the damn truth. Everybody else that sat in it was a bunch of damn liars. And I pretty much proved it in that courtroom. But they couldn't have a dumbass hillbilly making them look stupid. I didn't have to do anything. They did it all. From the point I asked after the arraignment for a copy of the arraignment to be able to prove that court and the judge that was in that courtroom, that judge committed obstruction of justice by making all the decisions for me without being he wasn't my attorney, but he acted as my attorney, and that is an obstruction of justice for any judge to do. And they do it many, many millions of times in many, many courts across this country. I fought them for years. This is the first city that I come across that was so absolutely no one gave a shit about their laws. They didn't give two shits about justice. This was all about revenge. The only reason I was arrested, folks, is because these people didn't know who the fuck I was. And I had a fucking channel on YouTube, and I was talking about them and living in their city, and they could not figure out who the fuck I was. It took them until the Five Guys incident that's on this channel before they ever got even my real name. Because all they knew me as was Watachi Running Free. Whenever they saw me in public, I was driving a vehicle that was registered in my wife's name, not mine. And up until the point at the Five Guys restaurant, when that shit went down, where Five Guys restaurant tried to have me arrested for not wearing a mask, and they called the cops on me, and I recorded every damn bit of it. They come out of the store, they used the Uber Eats application that the store had, and that's how they found out my name was Brian Grooms. Well, that didn't give them shit. They might have figured out, okay, my full name is David Brian Grooms. That gave them even less. These people needed my social security number. It wasn't on my driver's license. I never allow that shit. I'm smarter than that. They didn't have any other way to come up with it. Where they fucked up is if the police chief would have realized that on the complaint that I put in on his officer the week before all this shit went down, and the night I was arrested, I put in there to ID myself 100%, my social security number at the top of that, written paper that I wrote out with my charges of harassment and shit on that officer. They had my social security number and didn't even realize that it was on there. That's why they set up the whole fucking getting me arrested. Then they thought at the arraignment that I'd be coming in there begging for, please, help me, please help me. I didn't do that. They told me I had to wait to see the prosecutor. I said, all right. So I went in there to see the prosecutor. The original prosecutor, by the time he heard what little bit I had to say in the first meeting with him, he gave up. He fucking left. He said he didn't want nothing to do with it. That's when I got put with 40 Chins, Demon. Then when I went back into that office, I guess we were there to plea bargain. And I fucking basically looked at him and I said, I don't make any deals with the devil's herd. I stood up and walked out of there. There was freaking the prosecutor. I don't know who they all were, but there was about 8 suits in there and 2 or 3 deputies. Oh, and the police officer. The room was packed. And I walked out. There was no dealing. I wasn't making no deals with nobody. I didn't have nothing. I didn't do nothing to make no deals over. So they had to take it all the way. Went in to talk to the judge right after I'd walked out of the prosecutor's office. Said, I've filed many times to have all this shit dropped. They could have dropped it at any time, but they couldn't let a Tennessee hillbilly with the fucking cowboy hat on beat them. The law be damned. No Sheriff Green stepped up to help. No trustee stepped up to help. They all knew what was going on. They were going to make an example out of me. They thought it was going to just shut me the fuck up. Six more months. Probation. These motherfuckers now on a fucking driver's license that I've had for about 20 years straight. A CDL, it once was. No, or one ticket, one speeding ticket on it, a couple of seatbelt tickets against it. This town stuck me with driving without a license. And their own state said I had a license. And they stuck me with fleeing from an officer that was working security at a grocery store. I walked out, put my things in my car. He was not stopping me because he thought, or the store thought I stole anything. He was stopping me because he was supposedly he was working as security and he was supposedly making a traffic stop in the middle of a parking lot and waited until I was pulling out my car. Same guy that attacked me and I filed charges on him. 4 days before that. I figured he was going to do some more threatening. He claimed as I was leaving, I turned my car towards him and tried to run him down. He jumped out of the way. They claimed they had a store employee as a witness to that very thing. At the time they were talking about, Jesus was telling me, get your phone out and record, get your phone out and record, get your phone out and record. A police officer even said he knew I was looking for my phone to start recording it. When he claims when I drove past him, I turned my car towards him to run him down. You could clearly see in the video that he was on the left side of my car, and I turned the steering wheel all the way to the right to go around him as I was leaving the parking lot of the grocery store he was working as security in. He claimed I was fleeing from a traffic stop because I was driving without a license. All of this stood up in your courthouse. All this stood up in your township. Even your own state said I had a driver's license. That's called railroading. It might be a small amount of railroading, but now I have 12 points on a fucking driver's license that all I had was one speeding ticket and 2 seatbelt tickets in 20 years. And they've got me labeled as a damn criminal now that runs from the law. Well, I wasn't running that night, and I'm still sitting in the same damn place. It's just the 6-month anniversary of the fucking of Watachi in Boardman Township, Ohio. It might get another video before I just stop, unless some other shit starts happening around here. Then this damn channel will start getting lively again. But it wasn't long after my dad died last year that they started this shit on me. About maybe 2 months. Then they started their shit on me. I almost wonder if they wasn't in cahoots with old Sheriff Blakely down there, because old Sheriff Blakely, it wasn't long after my fucking trial was over, old Sheriff Blakely was no longer sheriff. And he said he told my sister that he was going to call up here and see if he could get some shit brought up on me. Maybe that's exactly what happened. What do you guys think? He got a hold of old Sheriff Green, because Sheriff Green was in many of my videos too. Sheriff Green got together with the police chief, got this whole thing set up on a bunch of lies. Then for some reason, my channel got shut down. Boom, the very next day after the trial. I know, folks, it's all a coincidence, isn't it? Just a coincidence, man. What are you talking about? You didn't go to jail. No big deal. Right? Isn't that what you guys believe? No big deal that a courtroom's doing this to you. How many people in fucking prison? It really got the shit end of the stick through this courtroom. That's what you got to ask yourself. And that's the last thing I'm saying about that. This video, I don't know how long it'll be, or if you'll ever see another one. This video is December, 6-month anniversary after the screwing they did to me in Boardman Township. It's your town. It ain't mine. This how you want it? I went through that courtroom. I went through it a couple of years before this one over tickets. They keep that courtroom right there packed full all the time. And every time that judge makes a decision for you, he commits obstruction of justice. All you have to do is look it up in the black law books. But today, it just don't seem like they're going by any kind of law books. We make it up as we go books. And they're written in pencil. It's your time, folks. Or at least I thought it was. Maybe it ain't. Maybe it's already gone. But if I was so evil, why didn't I take you guys up on one of them lawyers? Why didn't I? I could have got one you guys paid for. Why didn't I? I don't make deals with the devil's herd. I will not hire a demon to represent me in any kind of case. And if you don't think the prosecutor, the judge, and your lawyers all work for the same membership club, then I guess you don't know what the bar membership is. They honestly believe the law be damned. My will in this room. Knowing about my health problems, they still tried to force, that prosecutor still tried to get the judge to force a mask on my face out of spite, out of hatred for humans, and I still believe to this day, 40 Chins is a demon. And if you've been in front of him, you know who 40 Chins is. Guarantee it. Or if he's been one that's been standing on the other side of you, he is a liar out of the gate. He don't need to know facts. Just give him something to start with. He'll make everything else up. He didn't need no witnesses. All he needed was the lying cop. He was able to turn one of my own witnesses against me. That ended up proving to be a liar in the witness stand. Like I said, it's your time, folks. Make no mistake, God loves you and so do I. But the only way you're going to walk out of this one is if you've got Jesus in your heart, the Holy Spirit in your soul, and the Word of God in your mind. If not, on that day of reckoning, I will be a witness for each and every damn one of you that was involved in this. Watch and see. Have a good night.